Just before this week's video starts playing with you, I thought I'd offer you a bit of an informal introduction. I had one where I was wearing my golf shirt and we were doing the formal thing, but when I went to just introduce myself, because I haven't done that the last few videos, I said, "Hello, my name is Joe," and then I just paused for a really long time in which I started snickering. Because all I could think of in my head was, "Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory." But I don't work in a button factory. I'm the pastor of Redeemer CRC here in Sarnia, Ontario, and I'm working in my basement, which is a weird and unusual thing. And I've never stepped foot in a button factory and don't anticipate that happening anytime soon. But my name is Joe, and uh, anyways, it's ridiculous. Just watch the video. Have a blessed Sunday and a blessed week as you journey towards the cross with us. Let me begin today by reading from John chapter 12, verses 12 to 17. The next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." At first, his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. Now the crowd that was with him, when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead, continued to spread the word. Today is Palm Sunday. If it were a normal Palm Sunday, we would be waving palm branches in our sanctuaries. We'd probably have pawned them off on small children and set them loose in our sanctuaries to listen to a cacophony of noise, hooting and hollering, and the rustle of those branches as they waved. Though that gaggle of children would have made their way to the front of the sanctuary, they would have probably put those palm branches near the foot of the cross or somewhere along the lines. Or maybe they just went to the front and, unwilling to get rid of their branches, scurried off to find their seating with their parents. Either way, if you were in a normal Palm Sunday service, it would be a time of celebration and joy. It would be a time of energy, of vim and vigor, and people would be alive in community and in spirit and in the way that they are living their lives. But it is not a normal Palm Sunday. We are still trying to find ways of doing life from our homes. We are still trying to find ways of worshiping in our own spaces and yet reaching out to find community around us. It is a strange and anxious time. It's a time in which we are looking for new life, a time in which we are thirsting for the routines that have been established to change. Well, it's different than it was when Jesus marched into Jerusalem the first time. But that need or that angst for the world to change, for the heartache and the sorrow and the stories that end in misery to change, those things have not changed. We still anxiously anticipate a new beginning and a new life in company with one another. We still anticipate the fullness of life that God intends for us, even though we try to fumble along and find our ways through it now. We are hungry to be alive. We are hungry for community. We are hoping for something or someone to step up and change the way our world is running. We want to see this virus brought to its knees. We want to see hospitals properly equipped, staff empowered to serve as they need to. We want to see those hobbies and those times that we spend with community buzzing around the city and doing our business. We want to see those things restored. And so we find ourselves in company with people from ages past. We find ourselves in company with a multitude or a crowd of people who they themselves are recently grieving the loss of loved ones. Depending on the narrative or the story that you read, whether it's from the Gospel of Matthew or Luke, or as we're going to look at it today in John, each gospel writer finds a different lens or way of focusing on the events of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Matthew focuses on the triumphant, especially seeing Jesus as king coming to Jerusalem to sit on his throne to usher in a new kingdom. Luke sees it as an opportunity to focus on Jesus' own weeping for the people in Jerusalem, those who get the events that are taking place and those who do not have a clue. Or in the Gospel of John, we get to see it maybe in a way that others have too, that it is a time that we're looking for, a time in which Christ enters into his kingdom and brings about new life that they are longing for. For John in his Gospel is careful to put this triumphant entry right after the story of Lazarus' resurrection. And he's careful to note that in the crowd are people who witnessed Lazarus come to life. He puts in the crowd people who are alive with energy and excitement, who are waving the palm branches, knowing that out of death comes life. He puts people in the crowd who know what the victory is that's about to be won. And they're the ones that wave the branches. They're the ones that spread the news. They're the ones that pave the road with palm branches. They have seen it before. They know what is possible. So as they lay their branches and shout and praise, they cry out, "Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. See, your king is coming. Do not be afraid, children of God. Your king is coming. Do not be afraid, those of you who are anxious and worried. Your God, your Savior, is here, ready to save, ready to lift you, ready to deliver you, to deliver us, to heal, to restore, and to renew." So even though it may feel like you are walking through life, one of life's deepest and darkest valleys, even though you are in a place where there is plenty to fear and to be anxious about, I invite you to trust and to have no fear, to not feel alone or isolated or cut off, but to know that Christ himself is there with you, journeying alongside of you in the midst of this misery, knowing that he has prepared before you in the presence of all that we fear, a table where we might sit and fellowship with him, a place where we might belong, be fed and nourished, where our souls might be strengthened and lifted. This is the place that Christ is going. This is the place that we are being led on this Palm Sunday. This is the hope and the wonder that we can anticipate, not just as the coronavirus is brought to its knees, but as we enter into Easter and as we look forward to those days when the restrictions are lifted. In this way, open up your hearts to him. Open up hearts that have become closed and hardened. Open up your hearts to the hope that he offers to you, to the comfort and everlasting peace. Open up your hearts to trusting and believing that God is with you. And no matter what you are afraid of, he will carry you through. For his procession that John writes about, that all the gospel writers draw on and focus on in different ways, that procession to the grave, to that Easter victory, well, that was for you, so that you might have life and have it abundantly. Let us open our hearts so that the King of Glory may come in.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin in the peace that endureth, thy own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.